People ask me all the time, Sophie, can I build muscle if I only have dumbbells? And the answer is yes, but you've got to be smart with the exercises that you choose. So each of the workouts are made up of the most effective dumbbell-only exercises backed by science so that you know you're getting the most bang for your buck and you're not wasting your time. I will be walking you through all of the exercises along with form tips to help you get the most out of them at the gym, but you can easily do this workout at home because you only need dumbbells. Make sure you're subscribed because it's a 3-day workout split and all of the workouts work together to make sure you're getting enough volume for each of the muscle groups to help you see the most progress possible. But before we work out, obviously we've got to make sure that we're fueling our bodies properly, so let's go get our pre-workout meal. So for our pre-workout today, we are having a protein shake, some sourdough for some slower digesting carbs, and an apple for some faster digesting carbs. When you're having your pre-workout meal less than an hour before you go train, you want it to be a little bit lighter so it digests easier and to include some protein, which is the building blocks of new muscle tissue, and then also 2 different kinds of carb sources because glucose and fructose use different transporters, so they're absorbed into the body at different rates, which means you're going to have a more sustained energy release throughout your whole workout. So this is our pre-workout meal, and then whatever you eat, drink, whatever you do all for the glory of God. So we're going to get this down and then go look in the gym. Now before we work out, in order to prevent injury and help us lift our best, we've got to do a warm-up. So I always recommend doing 3 to 5 minutes of light cardio followed by some dynamic stretching like I'm showing you here. You can vary the dynamic stretches you do depending on the workout, but I always recommend including some for each muscle group because you're going to be using all of the muscles in your body in order to lift or stabilize lifts. So make sure you're warming up your full body, not just parts of it. And also if you want a good warm-up that you can just follow along with, I'll link them above. First up, we have dumbbell RDLs. RDLs, or Romanian deadlifts, for those of you who don't know, mainly target the hamstrings and glutes. But what makes this exercise so powerful is the hip hinge. When we're lowering the weight in RDLs, we're getting a big stretch on the hamstrings, which means that the hamstrings are under high tension in a lengthened position. Research shows that muscle growth may be maximized when the muscle's trained at longer lengths. There's 2 main questions that people come to me concerned about with RDLs. The main one being, how do I feel it more in my glutes because I'm feeling it too much in my hamstrings? And the second one being, I'm only really feeling it in my lower back. So to shift the emphasis off of the hamstrings and onto the glutes more, we want to keep a slight bend in our knee. When our knees are straighter, that's going to put more of a stretch on the hamstrings, so keeping that slight bend is going to shift the emphasis off a bit. And if you're mainly feeling it in your lower back, I want you to make sure that you're keeping those dumbbells as close to your legs as physically possible. We don't want them to be drifting away in front of you. Keep them glued to your legs, and that should help a lot. Another thing that makes Romanian deadlifts effective is that they're pretty easy to progressively overload because all you need to do is get a heavier dumbbell, or if you max out the dumbbells, and you can use a barbell, and it can be a lot easier to progress with than other movements like good mornings or back extensions. So when we're setting up, we want our feet at shoulder width apart. You can point your toes slightly outwards, but I like to keep them straight ahead. Keep a soft bend in your knees so we're not squatting down. And I want you to think about initiating the movement by pushing your hips straight back, kind of like you're trying to close a drawer that's open behind you. I also like to think about this movement as more of a forward and back movement instead of an up and down movement. It's also important to note that the range of motion here will be different for different people depending on their lever length and their flexibility. But a good rule of thumb is to stop when you feel a deep stretch in your glutes and hamstrings, not when the weights touch the floor. So we're driving our hips forward to stand up, squeezing our glutes at the top, and then reversing the movement, keeping that slight bend in the knee. One of my top tips to help you get the most out of this, and honestly a lot of movements that we do in the gym, is to slow down the eccentric or the lowering phase. We don't need to be doing things in slow motion, but just make sure that you're lowering the weight with control and then using power on the way up, because that's going to help you get the most out of the movement. If you're struggling with your grip, so you're finding that your legs would be strong enough to get a few more reps out, but you can't hold on to the dumbbells any longer, then I've got a few things that can help. First of all is liquid chalk. It's less messy than normal chalk and it's going to increase the friction between your hand and the dumbbell. And then we have lifting straps. So as a quick demo, you want to put your hand through the loop of the strap, make sure the loose end is in line with your thumb. We're going to put the loose end under the dumbbell or bar, wrap that round, then twist it towards you like you're revving a motorbike. That's going to secure your hand in place and take some of the grip requirements out of it, so you'll likely be able to get a few more reps out, which is going to be really beneficial because it's those hard reps that count most towards getting the most muscle growth. Now we're going to chuck one of the dumbbells to the side. You might need to change the weight, you can gauge it as you go, but we're doing goblet squats. Goblet squats are a full lower body movement that targets the quads, glutes, adductors, and also some core. Because we're holding the weight in front, it naturally keeps your torso much more upright, which increases the quad involvement as compared to other squat variations, while also still loading the glutes through the depth. The studies show that deep squats lead to both greater glute and greater quad activation as compared to partial rep squats, and the goblet position can also help improve squat mechanics, making it one of the best options in terms of hypertrophy hypertrophy and also technique development, especially because we're only using dumbbells. The only potential downside with goblet squats is that as you progress with heavier and heavier weights, it can be harder to get the dumbbell into position, but I did find this useful hack to help you out with that. So starting in a kneeling position, you're going to bring the dumbbell up onto one knee, put your hands underneath the top part of the dumbbell like you're holding it as a goblet. Then pushing through that front foot, you're going to go to standing. Then we want to shift our feet position to just outside hip width with our toes slightly pointed out. And from there, you're going to brace your core, hold the dumbbell tight to your chest, and then descend into the squat. Make sure you keep your chest tall and your ribs stacked under your pelvis. So we don't want to be leaning forward because that's going to put us off balance. Drive through your midfoot as you stand up and keep a slight bend in your knees at the top. So we're not locking out our knees, we want to keep that constant tension from rep to rep. One mistake I see people make a lot is allowing their knees to cave in as they're lowering into the squat. So I want you to think about actively pushing your knees outwards as you descend and ascend out of the squat, because that is going to keep you so much more stable and allow you to shift more of the emphasis onto the quads and glutes, which is what we're trying to work. For the next one, you're going to need another dumbbell again, so go grab that, but we're doing split squats, and split squats are honestly one of the most underrated exercises for glute growth. The glutes are one of the largest muscles in your body and the main driver of hip extension. So in split squats, the front leg moves through deep hip flexion, and we can increase the activation of the gluteus maximus even more by using a forward hip hinge. So when we're hinging forward at the hips, our torso is going to be at more of a 45-degree angle. That is going to emphasize the glutes more, whereas when we're more upright, so our torso is about 90 degrees, that is going to emphasize the quads more. It's a really small shift to the form, but it can make a lot of difference in what muscles we're actually targeting in the exercise, which is one of the reasons why learning about form and how to do the exercises properly is so important. Split squats are what we call a unilateral movement, so we're focusing on one side at a time. So in our split squats, the glute medius is working hard to stabilize the pelvis and prevent your front knee from collapsing inwards. And while it is a lot smaller than the gluteus maximus, it's still a really important muscle to work in terms of the overall shape of your glute, improving hip stability, as well as force output in your compound lifts. If you're a complete beginner to this movement, you might find the balance side of things a little bit tricky to begin with, so I just recommend dropping the weight and doing it body weight for now, and then you can add weight to progress. As our first progression, we're just going to use one dumbbell in the opposite hand to our working leg. So our working leg is the front leg. You can choose to hold the dumbbell on the same side as your working leg, but I've heard experts in the field talking about this recently. And when you're holding the dumbbell in the opposite hand to your working leg, then your glute's going to have to work harder to resist the rotation, so you could get more out of the movement. And I'd say if there's a tiny tweak we can make to help us get more out of the movement, then we might as well do it. And since with this progression you're still going to have one hand free, you can either use this just for balance, or you can go a bit closer to a wall and use the wall for balance. So you have some options there. Next progression, we're going to use two dumbbells. So the benefits of this is obviously we're going to be able to weight it heavier, we're going to be able to progress more. But whichever level you're at, we're going to set up by taking a longer stance, keeping the front shin more vertical. Then we're hinging forward at the hip to add a slight forward lean with our torso. We don't want to be bending our back over, so make sure you're keeping your core tight. Lower into the lunge with control, and then we're driving through the front foot to raise back to standing. Also, make sure to not lock out your knees at the top. We're keeping that tension, so soft knees. And again, if you did want to focus more on the quads, then we would keep that torso more upright. And if we wanted more of a glute focus, then we're keeping that forward lean. One of the most important things if you actually want to see progress in the gym is something called progressive overload. Basically, all it is increasing the intensity of your workouts from week to week by either increasing the reps you lift or the weights you lift, or also focusing on your form. If you're not progressing some aspect of your workouts from week to week, then your body's going to adapt to the weights that you're currently lifting and you're just going to plateau. So we want to make sure that we're being intentional about trying to lift heavier or trying to squeeze in that extra rep, because that is what's going to get you the results. For these next two exercises, we're going to be focusing in on two different areas of the glutes. So starting with sumo squats, these are going to emphasize mainly the gluteus maximus, and EMG studies showed that the wider stance in sumo squats increases the adductor activation, which is crucial because the adductors play a major role in hip extension and overall glute development. Now for this exercise specifically, you're going to be able to lift heavier than you think because you're not putting the weight in any awkward positions like a goblet squat. So go and choose the heaviest dumbbell you can carry, because if you can carry it, then you're going to be able to rep it out. So we want to have a wide stance with our toes turned outwards, hold the dumbbell directly underneath your shoulders, and when you're lowering, sit back and down, keeping the knees pushed out and maintaining a neutral spine throughout the whole movement. When you get to the top, make sure to squeeze the glutes, but keep a soft bend in the knees. To really improve that mind to muscle connection with the glutes, think about spreading the floor with your feet. Now for our final exercise, you're going to grab a much lighter weight, but still heavy enough to allow you to reach 2 to 3 reps shy of muscular failure within the 12 to 15 rep range. Not gonna lie, this is one of the more awkward exercises to do, and if you had access to more equipment like cables or machines, then I would likely switch this out to hip abductions or cable kickbacks. But that being said, we're doing weighted clams, and they still are a really good exercise to target the gluteus medius. Studies using EMG data also consistently show that clams are one of the highest activating exercises for the gluteus medius, especially when you're adding load, so like the weight we've got here. If you want to try it without the weight first to get the form down, go ahead, but you want to lie on your side with your hips stacked, keep your knees bent, your feet together, and you want to keep your hips still, so we're not rolling back. You're going to open the top knee slowly with control, pause briefly at the top, and then lower it back down. Another tip is if you feel this in your hip flexors or lower back, just reduce the range of motion and slow the movement down, so you're really focusing on the glutes and keeping that tension to get the most out of it. So you do your 12 to 15 reps on one side, and then switch sides, do your 12 to 15 reps, and then rest, and that'll be one set. And that is your leg day complete. So make sure you stretch for around 5 minutes afterwards, just to help kickstart the recovery process, cool down properly, and leave you ready for the rest of your day. Here's the full workout. You can pause now and screenshot. And if you want a tailored workout nutrition plan plus accountability to help you reach your fitness goals, then you can apply for one-to-one coaching in the description. First off, as always, we never skip our warm-up, so we're starting with 5 minutes of light cardio followed by dynamic stretches, and those 5 minutes at the start of your workout are gonna seriously limit your chances of getting injured. They're gonna help you feel better, perform your best, and even though we're training upper body, you want to make sure that you're warming up your full body because other muscles are going to be involved in stabilization of your lifts. So, super important. After you're properly warmed up, we're kicking off our main workout with single arm dumbbell rows. Dumbbell rows mainly target the lats, which are part of your back, plus the upper back muscles like the rhomboids and traps, with some help from the biceps. Since single arm rows are a unilateral movement, that means we can focus more effectively on working one lat at a time. And another big advantage of single arm dumbbell rows is that you get a really big range of motion, so you can feel that stretch in the lat right at the bottom. And although the stretch isn't the only driver of muscle growth, working through the full range of motion here is going to give us more time under tension, which is also very important. You'll see a few different setups for single arm dumbbell rows, but I like to put the bench on a high incline, place one hand on the back, and then stand with a staggered stance. Brace your core, keep your spine neutral, then pull the dumbbell towards your hip, not your shoulder. So we don't want to be going up and down in a vertical line. We want to think about it as sort of an arc, so arcing back and up towards your hip, then lowering back down in that arc to get that really big stretch on your lat. We're holding the dumbbell with a neutral grip, which is going to limit the bicep involvement here. So as you're moving the dumbbell up, make sure you're keeping it close into your side, then squeeze your lat at the top. And here, a helpful cue to help you engage the lats more instead of the traps is imagine squeezing a towel between your shoulder blade and your spine. After that, you're just going to lower the weight with control and then repeat the movement. So after you've completed 10 to 12 reps on one side, you're going to switch sides, do the other arm, and then you're going to rest for 60 to 90 seconds. Next up, we're hitting chest, so we're going to bump the bench down a couple notches to around 45 degrees. And the reason we've chosen incline chest press over flat bench chest press is because having the bench at an incline angle is going to recruit more of the upper chest fibers without really sacrificing much, if any, of the lower to middle chest fibers that we would have been working with just using a flat bench. And of course, we'll also have a little bit of front delt and tricep activation going on there as well. Now, you might not have thought about this much before, but the exact angle that you set the bench at actually depends on your body structure. So an easy way to test this is called the sternum test. So you want to lie on a flat bench and place your phone on your upper chest or your sternum. If the phone angles downwards, you've got a steep sternum, meaning that a higher 30 to 45 degree incline might be necessary for you to target the upper chest better. If the phone sits flat, then you've got a flat sternum, so you'll only need a slight incline of around 15 to 30 degrees. Another thing to bear in mind, which you might have seen powerlifters do quite often, is the arch. Looks dramatic, yeah, I know, and you'll hear a lot of mixed opinions about arching, whether it's good, whether it's not. Honestly, you don't need to go crazy with the arch, and you don't need to avoid it like the plague, but having a small arch like I'm doing here is perfectly safe. The one thing to bear in mind though is that having a greater lower back arch is going to flatten the incline, making a 30-degree angle become more like a 15-degree one, so if you've got a big arch, you might need to increase the angle slightly. One of the biggest mistakes I see often in terms of form is when people have their elbows flared out too much. So instead of your elbows forming a sort of T shape when you're pressing, you want it to be more like an arrow. As always, make sure you're lowering the weight under control, getting that full range of motion at the bottom so you can get a bigger stretch on the pecs. And a little trick to help you get more power on the way up is to push through your feet. So this is actually a full body compound exercise. I know you're lying on a bench, but you're going to be using a lot of stabilizing muscles, especially the power that you can use from your legs. We're not taking the weight up in any shape or form, but pushing through your feet is going to keep you more stable, so you'll likely be able to lift heavier too. Next up, we're moving on to shoulders, so popping the bench up to the notch that is just below 90 degrees. You'll likely need to drop the weight just a little bit for this one, and seated shoulder press is really great for targeting the front and side delts, with the triceps helping out a little bit on the lockout. We used to think that seated shoulder press mainly targeted the front delts, but recent studies have shown that side delt activation is actually a lot higher than most people realize. But regardless of the exact exercise, I think it's really important to have at least some sort of overhead pressing movement as part of your routine, because it's not only a great compound exercise for developing overall upper body strength and shoulder health, but overhead pressing is great for preparing your body for real life scenarios like lifting your luggage into an overhead compartment on an airplane, or putting boxes on high shelves, or lifting children. It really builds a base for upper body power that makes tasks like everyday tasks easier and safer. So to set up, we're going to kick the dumbbells into position. Even if you're just using light weights to begin with, learning how to kick them up properly is going to help you so much to conserve your energy when you start lifting heavier, so you can push your sets harder, get more reps out, and ultimately that is going to lead to more muscle growth. Once you've got the dumbbells at shoulder height, you're going to keep your core tight, press overhead in a straight path, and don't lock your elbows out at the top. You want to keep a soft bend and then slowly lower back down under control. You don't need to bring the dumbbells all the way down till they're resting on your shoulders. You can stop when they're about creating 90 degrees with your elbows or slightly below. Similar to incline press, I like to keep my elbows tucked slightly, and a good cue is to lead with your pinkies, because that's going to help you emphasize the delts over the triceps. Speaking of triceps, next we're moving into an arm superset. So go ahead and set the bench up at around 45 to 60 degrees because we'll need that for the second exercise in our superset. But first of all, we're starting off with overhead tricep extension. This is one of my all-time favorite exercises for the triceps because we're getting a really big stretch on the long head of the tricep especially, which makes up most of the size of your arm. Studies consistently show that overhead tricep exercise variations produce substantially greater hypertrophy in the triceps when compared to other tricep exercises like tricep pushdowns, where the arm's in a more neutral position. The only awkward part of this movement is really getting the dumbbell up into position and then out of position to begin with and end with, but once you're there, you're all good. So a few form cues to keep in mind is keep your elbows tucked, lower the dumbbell slowly behind your head, feel that nice stretch on the triceps at the bottom, then extend fully but without locking your elbows out at the top. After you've done 10 to 12 reps here, we are going straight into the next exercise of our superset, which is single arm dumbbell preacher curl. Preacher curls are one of the most effective bicep exercises out there, especially if you're wanting to target the short head or the bicep peak. Due to your arm position on the bench, the bicep brachialis also gets strong activation, and that's the muscle that's underneath the bicep, so it can add to pushing the bicep outward for more of a fuller look. Another aspect that makes preacher curls so good is because your upper arm is fixed in place, so you're reducing the shoulder movement and forcing the biceps to do the work. That means it's pretty much impossible to use momentum in this movement, which allows us to maximize the muscle tension that the biceps are experiencing. When you're setting up, the angle that the bench is at is really important because you want your upper arm to be flush against the bench, not lifting off at funny angles, leaving gaps or balancing on your elbow. Once you're in position, curl the weight up slowly, pause and squeeze at the top, and then lower under control. You want to take a lot of care in that bottom portion because it is going to be a lot of tension on the biceps in the stretch position, and you are going to feel it. This one is intense, so really prioritize control here. Do your 10 to 12 reps and then go straight into the other arm, and that is your first superset complete. We've got 3 rounds, so after taking 60 to 90 seconds rest, we're going to go back into tricep extensions and then complete our other 2 supersets. Moving on to one of the most humbling exercises to ever be invented, we are doing dumbbell lateral raises. We used to think the shoulders could only be divided into 3 main heads, the front, side, and rear delt. But recent, more detailed studies have actually shown that the shoulders are a lot more complicated than we initially thought, and we can really divide it into more like 7 segments instead of 3. Now, does that mean the way we train shoulders is going to change dramatically? Probably not, but it is helpful to bear in mind that including a variety of different angles and planes of motion in your shoulder training is going to help you target the shoulders most effectively and build them in the most well-rounded way. You'll see this in action more in our full body workout, which is the last workout of our 3-day workout split, but for now we're going to be focusing on the middle fibers of the delts. So standing with your feet shoulder width apart, knees soft and core engaged, you're going to hold the dumbbells at your sides, your palms facing toward your body in a neutral grip. Roll your shoulders back and down, and then as you're raising the weight, think about pushing the dumbbells away from you rather than pulling them upwards. Make sure you're not looking at your elbows, and a really good cue to help you focus on targeting the side delts more is leading with your pinky. Imagine you're tipping 2 jugs of water up with your hands, and when you get to the top, you're pouring that water out onto the floor. One of the biggest mistakes I see all the time with this movement is people just using momentum, not controlling the weight and swinging the dumbbells up and down. That is not going to do as much for your side delt. So if you want to grow them most effectively, make sure you're controlling the weight the whole time. And to avoid shrugging, because that's going to target the traps more, keep your shoulder blades pressed back and down. And a little bonus tip, think about leading with your elbows instead of your hands. That can go a long way to get that mind to muscle connection with your side delts. Now I'm going to mark the next one as an optional finisher, because I know this is supposed to be a dumbbell only workout, but if you have a pull-up bar, you might as well make the most of it. In my opinion, pull-ups are one of the best upper body compound exercises out there, not just because they work a lot of muscles, but also because they improve your grip strength and work on your functional fitness. I actually had to take a break from pull-ups last year because of a shoulder injury, so I'm just getting back into it right now, and I'll be completely real with you, I can only do 1 pull-up as of posting this video, and that really frustrates me because I used to be able to do 8 at my prime and I've lost so much progress, but I did want to just share that because if you've hit a plateau or you feel like your progress has gone the opposite direction, that is all part of the journey, and progress is never linear. So this doesn't mean that you'll never be able to get more than 1 pull-up. We can get through it. It's just the way that you approach it that matters. Let me know if you want me to do a separate video walking you through all of the pull-up progressions, because I know pull-ups are quite a technical exercise and it's important to get the form down first, but here's a few variations you can try to get your first pull-up. First of all, you want to master the active hang. This is not like a dead hang where you let your shoulders shrug up. Instead, we want to retract our shoulder blades so we're keeping them back and down, similar to what we were doing in lateral raises. From there, we can go into scapular pull-ups. So relax into that dead hang and then pull your shoulder blades back and down like we were doing in our active hold. That's going to lift your body up a few inches. Keep your arms straight, hold that briefly, and then lower back down into your dead hang. That is 1 rep. It might seem like a kind of weird movement that doesn't have much range of motion, but you're still going to be building strength in the muscles in your upper back, as well as your shoulder stabilizers, which are really important for your full pull-up motion. From there, we can move into negative pull-ups. So you're going to stand on the box, jump up to the top position of your pull-up, and then slowly lower down under control, then repeat for reps. Then you're going to grab yourself some resistance bands. The thicker the resistance band, the more resistance you're going to have, so the easier the pull-up motion is going to be. I would recommend choosing resistance bands over the assisted pull-up machine, just because it puts your body in the more natural position that you'll need to be in for the pull-up, and there's going to be more core involvement. So you're training multiple aspects of the pull-up, and opting for bands over the machine is also going to allow you to develop that pull-up technique a lot faster as well. So setting up, we want an overhand grip with your palms facing away from you, slightly wider than shoulder width apart. Retract your shoulder blades, squeeze your glutes and engage your core, and then keep your chest up the whole time as you're pulling the bar towards your chest. A helpful cue when initiating the movement is thinking about driving your elbows back and down into your back pocket. Also make sure that you're aiming to get your chest to the bar, not your head to the bar, because we want our chin to actually go over the bar to count as a full rep. Lower yourself down slowly with control, and you've done your first pull-up. Now pull-ups can take a long time to master, but the most important thing, as with any exercise, is consistency. So keep showing up with your pull-ups, aim to progress them from week to week, either by using a lighter resistance band or really slowing down those reps. But if increasing your pull-up strength is one of your main goals, I would recommend switching this exercise from the end of your workout to the very start, when you've got the most energy and you're going to be able to put more into it. It is our final workout of the week and we are training full body. In terms of rest days, you want to make sure you've got a full rest day before and after your full body workout, just so that you're not training the same muscle group within 48 hours to allow for optimal recovery. We're structuring this full body workout with the lower body exercises first while you have the most energy, because they usually involve multiple muscle groups, not just your lower body. So we want to make sure we've got enough energy for that. And then we're going to move into more of the upper body portion of the workout and then finishing off with an abs finisher. So first exercise in this workout is dumbbell split stance hip thrusts. This exercise mainly targets your glutes with a little help from your hamstrings, and the split stance means that one side is going to be working harder at a time, which is great for building balance strength, fixing glute imbalances. And since we can't load regular hip thrusts as heavy when we're using dumbbells as we can when we're using a barbell or a Smith machine, then using the split stance is going to allow us to get more out of the exercise to grow our glutes. Research consistently shows that hip thrust variations create really high glute activation, especially at the top part of the movement when the hips are fully extended. Now, it's important to note we do not want to be arching our back at the top. You want to come so that your torso makes a straight line and then squeeze your glutes hard at the top. The same form translates over to our split stance dumbbell hip thrusts, and these may also increase gluteus medius activation because you're going to have to stabilize more than you would with a regular hip thrust. So to set up, you want to rest your upper back on a box or a bench with the edge lying just underneath your shoulder blades. Place the dumbbell on your lap and then thrust the weight up like you would with a regular hip thrust. Then you're going to move the dumbbell onto one side so that we can focus more of the load over our working leg. You're going to step 1 foot forward, this is our supporting leg. Keep your core tight and your back straight as you drive through the foot that's closest to you, and then squeeze your glutes hard at the top. Keep your ribs down so you're not overarching your lower back at the top as well. And I like to think about the point where my back touches the bench as sort of a pivot point. So when we're moving the weight up and down, it's almost like we're moving it around that pivot point. If you're finding this positioning of the dumbbell a little bit awkward, you can also just put it flat across your hips. And to really maximize the glute growth we can get out of this movement, I want you to slow down the lowering phase. Then on the way up, you're going to pause for 1 second at the top of every rep. That's going to increase the time under tension, which is really important for muscle growth. So once you've done 10 to 12 reps on one side, you are going to switch legs and do 10 to 12 reps on the other side, and then you're going to rest for 90 seconds and do your next set. Next up, we have walking lunges, which are potentially one of the best lower body movements you can do. Walking lunges primarily target your glutes and your quads while also challenging your balance and your coordination. Since this is also a unilateral exercise, each leg is working independently, so lunges can help build strength evenly from side to side and help us work on evening out any imbalances as well. Studies comparing unilateral exercises like lunges and split squats to bilateral movements like barbell back squats shows that they're extremely effective for muscle activation and functional strength, especially for the glutes. For this one, I want you to take a second to look at your own physique, strengths and goals, because we can change the way that we perform walking lunges to bias the quads more or bias the glutes more. So if you're more quad dominant, you might want to do the more glute biased form, and if you're more glute dominant, you might want to do the more quad biased form. Or if you wanted to keep it more even, you could do 1 set glute biased, then 1 set quad biased, and so on. To target the glutes more, we're going to take longer steps and have a slight forward hip hinge, whereas for more quad emphasis, we're going to keep our torso more upright and take shorter steps. A big mistake that I see a lot of people making when they're struggling with their balance for walking lunges is the positioning that they're putting their feet with each step. So you don't want to be walking the tightrope, you want to keep your feet around shoulder width apart as you're stepping forward each time, because that's going to keep you more stable. Keep this movement pretty fluid, moving smoothly from one step into the next, so try not to pause too long on the top. And a helpful cue to keep your knees tracking over your toes is think about pushing them outwards at the bottom. Nothing major, we just don't want our knees to be caving inwards. A lot of the time, grip strength can be a big limiting factor for walking lunges, so I'd suggest definitely getting some lifting straps or some lifting chalk like we chatted about in the leg day workout of this series. So if you missed that, definitely go and check out the demo after this video, but I'll also put the links to the ones I use in the description. The last leg exercise of our full body workout is one that a lot of people tend to skip, sorry for calling you out, but we're doing calf raises. Don't skip calves. I know they can be stubborn sometimes, but they do respond if you're using good form. What most people get wrong with calf raises is thinking that the top portion where you're on your tiptoes is the most important to grow your calves. What's actually important is the stretch. So if you're just doing calf raises on the floor, then you're not going to be getting that stretch. So we want to grab ourselves a plate or do these on the edge of a step so that we can be getting that full range of motion and make the most of the stretch at the bottom. So standing on the edge of the plate with a dumbbell in one hand, you're going to use the other hand for balance. Push through the balls of your feet, pause briefly at the top, then control the lowering phase, really sit into that stretch at the bottom. We want to pause there and then repeat for reps. Calf raises are one of those exercises where I do really like to sit in the stretch, and if you've not tried doing them this way, then you will definitely be feeling them tomorrow. Moving on to the upper body portion of our full body workout, we are starting off strong with a superset. So first exercise is bent over rows. We're going to use a supinated grip here, which means that our palms are facing upwards towards the ceiling, and the underhand grip is going to increase the bicep involvement while still heavily loading the lats and the upper back. Rowing movements have been consistently shown to produce high lat activation, making them essential for building a strong defined back. And since we already did pull-ups in our upper body workout, which are a vertical pulling movement, rows being a more horizontal pulling movement are going to target your back in a different way, so creating a more well-rounded and balanced physique. Holding the dumbbells in an underhand grip, you're going to keep your core tight and your spine in a neutral position. Hinge forwards at the hips, keep your chest slightly up, and then you're going to pull the dumbbells towards your hip crease. Squeeze your shoulder blades together with a slight pause at the top, and then lower the dumbbells back down, feeling that stretch on the lats at the bottom. Since bent over rows are a compound lift and they do indirectly target your legs a little bit more than other rowing variations like cable seated rows for example, that is why we've put them as part of our full body workout, because we're already training legs as well, so it's just extra bang for your buck. Now this is an antagonistic superset. All that means is that we're working opposing muscle groups. So after you've done 8 to 10 reps of bent over rows, we are going to go straight into 8 to 10 reps of push-ups. Push-ups are massively underrated. They're incredible for building like full upper body strength, and let's just be honest, they're a fun skill to have. Push-ups train your chest, shoulders, triceps and core, and research has shown that push-ups can also produce similar chest and tricep activation to bench pressing when taken close to failure, especially for beginners and intermediates. Obviously, as you get more advanced, you will be able to get more out of bench pressing because you can overload it better. But if you're sitting there thinking, Sophie, I can't even do one press up yet, do not worry. I'm about to walk you through all of the progressions so that if you take this away and follow this plan, you will be able to get your first push-up. Going from easiest to hardest, our first push-up progression is wall push-ups. So you want to keep your body in a straight line from head to heels, hands in line with your chest just outside shoulder width, and then you're focusing on lowering your chest towards the wall, not your face. Also, the further back you step from the wall, the harder it's going to be. Our next progression is incline kneeling push-ups. These are easier than regular incline push-ups because you're essentially shortening the lever length, which means there's going to be less torque, so you're not going to have to use as much core involvement, which means it's easier. Again, hands just outside shoulder width and directly under your shoulders. Keep your core tight so your hips don't drop, and then lower slowly until your chest is touching the edge of the box. Next from there is incline negative push-ups. So we're doing our regular incline push-up on the way down, drop to your knees, push up from your knees, and then repeat that movement. When you put that down, you can progress to regular incline push-ups, so just like the negative portion that we were doing previously, but now on the way up you're also staying in that full plank position. The next three progressions are pretty similar except just on the floor instead of the incline. So we're starting off with kneeling push-ups and then going into negative push-ups, and then once you've got your negative push-ups down, we can go straight for the full push-up. When we're training push-ups, I want you to start with the hardest level that you can control with perfect form, and the way you're going to progress this is, first of all, you're going to go in at that level and aim for 8 reps. Next time you're going to go in and aim for 9 reps, and then the next time you're going to aim for 10 reps. When you can hit 10 reps, that is when you're going to level up and try the same thing again. If you can't get 8 to 10 reps for all 3 sets at that level, don't worry. You can do the first set or the first 2 sets of that particular push-up variation, and then you can back it down to a previous progression when you're more fatigued. I've lost a lot of push-up strength over the past few months since having my shoulder injury, so for me, this is the way that I am progressing to get back to my full push-ups. I used to be able to do 15 in a row. Sadly, I can only do around 3 in a row now, but we're working back up using this exact progression system. And then one last thing to note is that you want to keep your elbows around 30 to 45 degrees, so not completely flared out, and always make sure that you're leading the movement with your chest. Aim to touch the ground if you can, because we really want to be getting that full range of motion. Go comment which level of push-up you're currently at, then come tell me whenever you level up, because I want to celebrate with you. After 8 to 10 reps of push-ups, you're going to rest for 2 minutes and then go into your next superset. Next up, we are training arms. I absolutely love an arm superset, so we're starting with tricep skull crushers. We're doing 2 sets of 10 to 12 for this superset, and since exercises that load the triceps in a stretch position are particularly effective for targeting the triceps long head, including overhead tricep movements in your routine are really important for muscle growth. So to set up, we're lying on a flat bench. You can either use 1 dumbbell or 2 dumbbells, it is up to you. Press your back into the bench and keep your core tight. You're going to bring the dumbbell up above your face, move your upper arm back so you're creating a 60 to 45 degree angle. Keep your elbows tucked. Then with your upper arm stationary, you're going to hinge at the elbows to lower the dumbbell slowly to the side of your head, and then extend without locking the elbows out at the top. This is going to be really important to keep that tension on the triceps and protect your elbow joint, and having your upper arm at that 45 to 60 degree angle is going to help increase the stretch on the triceps. Exercise 2 of our superset is incline curls. So we're going to bump the bench up to around a 45 degree angle. And this is really where incline curls differ from regular bicep curls, because your arm starts behind your body, the muscles placed in a more lengthened position, and recent research shows that training muscles under stretch can lead to greater hypertrophy when done correctly. I probably should have changed my hairstyle for these two exercises because my claw clip was kind of getting in the way, but now we know. Then with your palms facing upwards, you're going to curl the dumbbells up, focusing on contracting and squeezing the biceps at the top. A helpful thing to think about is keeping your elbow fixed in space, so you want your upper arm to be stationary and only the lower part of your arm is moving. You don't want to be cheating and bringing those elbows forward to help you lift the weight up. That is going to shift the tension off of your biceps, but on the downward movement, we want to lower the dumbbells slowly, maintaining full extension, but we want to stop just before we lose that tension, so we're not locking our elbows out of the bottom. The good thing about incline curls is it's kind of hard to use momentum just from the position that you're in, which is really great for preventing us from cheating the movement. And sitting in that position with your arms behind your body puts the long head of the bicep, which crosses your shoulder joint, in a more stretched position, which can be more beneficial for growth. So you're doing 10 to 12 reps of skull crushers straight into 10 to 12 reps of incline curl, then you're going to rest for 90 seconds and then repeat that for your second set. Our final upper body exercise of our full body workout is chest supported rear delt flies. This one is going to target your rear delts, which is a muscle that most people neglect, but it can really add to the overall shape of your shoulders. Training rear delts is also super important to help keep your shoulders healthy and balanced, and the chest support here removes momentum, so the shoulders are doing the work and not your lower back. Now, I did try this exercise with dumbbells, but our dumbbells didn't go any lighter than 5 kg, so I switched to plates. But if you do have lighter dumbbells, then you can do this without. You're gonna have to leave your ego at the door with this one, because your rear delts are a small muscle, and just like with lateral raises, you're probably gonna have to use a lighter weight than you think. Set up an incline bench to around 30 to 45 degrees, lie face down, making sure that your upper chest is supported at the top of the pad. Hang the dumbbells directly under your shoulders with a slight little bend in your elbows, and then raise your arms out to the side in a T shape, or sort of like a reverse hug. Make sure you're leading this movement with your elbows rather than your hands, and the dumbbells should move on a lateral plane, not backwards towards your glutes. Squeeze your rear delts at the top of the movement, but stop just before your shoulder blades over retract, so avoid shrugging or excess trap involvement. If you find that you are shrugging the weight a bit too much, then you're probably lifting too heavy, so you're going to want to go lighter. Now, I love an abs finisher maybe as much as I love an arm superset, so we're finishing with core. This is an exercise that I've been loving recently and actually do in my own routine every single week, and it is the tucked dragon flag. Now, if this is too hard because it is a little bit of a more advanced exercise, then you can do reverse crunches because they're going to work similar muscles. But the tucked dragon flag has strong involvement from the entire core, a little bit of hip flexors and lats just to help you stabilize, and this is what we call an anti-extension exercise, so your abs are working to stop your lower back from arching. To set this up, you can either lie on a bench or the floor. I prefer the floor because I just feel really unstable on the bench. Maybe it's just the equipment we've got, but you know. And you want to grip something solid behind your head, either the edge of the bench or a pole or some heavy dumbbells. Then keeping your knees tucked, you're going to use your abs to lift your hips off of the floor. You want to keep an arch in your back as well, because a big mistake that a lot of people make is just lifting in the hips without really engaging their core properly in leg raises, and that is mostly going to target more of your hip flexors, so it's not going to be as effective for your abs. Whereas in this movement, we're keeping our spine rounded, sort of crunching into the movement and allowing our body to move as one unit. So in the lowering phase, you want to lower your hips slowly back and down. I like to extend my legs at the bottom before bringing them back up and into the next rep. Now, one of the most important things for this one is slow it down. Do not rush your reps because you're not going to get as much out of it that way, and focus on contracting your abs. Research on core training shows that exercises that resist spinal extension, like dragon flags, produce higher ab activation than basic crunches because the core has to stabilize against a longer lever and gravity. Although tucked dragon flags may have slightly less ab activation than full dragon flags, we can use this as a progression to work up to it, because dragon flags are a very advanced exercise and I'm still working on getting there myself. After this, your abs are gonna be burning, but that's a good thing because we have finished our full body workout. You're gonna feel so good at the end, trust me. So here's the full workout. I hope you found the video helpful. Let me know which parts you found most helpful so that I can make my content better in the future. Also comment what you want to see in future videos or in future series, because we are wrapping up this 3-day workout split. It's been really, really great, and I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Subscribe so you don't miss any more videos like this, and YouTube thinks you'll find this video helpful next. So love you so much. I'll see you there. Bye.